Hi, my name is Gordon, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about my character design process, specifically by using a portfolio project of mine. The first step that I usually take, not always, but usually when it comes to designing just anything, involves the practice of thumbnailing. The term thumbnail just comes from the idea that the sketch isn't supposed to be bigger than your thumbnail. Obviously that's not how small these are. It's a good practice. I learned it from a lot of the professionals on YouTube. They talk about thumbnailing a lot, so I started thumbnailing just as a way to get some ideas on the paper, maybe explore some different kinds of characters. So thumbnailing is actually really important just for being able to get an idea out there. So there's an adage that I hear periodically from some of the concept artists that I watch on YouTube. So the adage goes, you draw small to solve big problems, and you draw big to solve small problems. And the idea behind that is that it's a lot easier to figure out composition and see which kind of ideas you like and what looks interesting to you when it's small. And when it's small, you know, thumbnail size, you're not looking at all the details because of how tiny it is. You're focused on the general vibe, the general idea. That's why all of these thumbnails are just little stick figures, they're just like little shapes, because at this point I'm just trying to figure out what I want to play around with, and I guess in this case who I'm going to play around with. That sounds wrong. Who I'm going to play around with design-wise. Tack design-wise on that one, Gordon. tack design-wise on that one, Gordon. Jesus. When I started this sheet, I actually didn't know which character I was going to be exploring, so those thumbnails actually helped me figure out who I was going to be looking at. The fun thing I've always found about thumbnailing is that I always come up with these, maybe not necessarily interesting characters, but these interesting concepts. You'll notice later in the video that some of the concepts that I actually drew on completely different characters in the little thumbnail segment actually kind of got put on the character that I ended up exploring, which is interesting. I am essentially barfing up all these different little concepts that I can explore later, and they're just these bite-sized little vibes that I can just come back to. When I come back to this series later and do more sketches for this Dungeon Synth project, I am probably going to reference some of these earlier thumbnails. This leads us into the second segment, which is exploration. Once I have my thumbnail and I kind of figured out who I wanted to be exploring with this page, or who I wanted to be exploring for the majority of this page, because I continued a little bit off camera and I ended up sketching some different characters, but from the thumbnailing that I did, I decided that I wanted to explore the king character for this series. This project specifically is inspired by two Dungeon Synth albums by Swordlender. They're very good albums. If you love Dungeon Synth, please go give them a listen. I'll link them at some point. One of the things that I wrote down was that I wanted this to be kind of a dying king, so I wanted to play around with this regal but still kind of shriveled and sort of older silhouette. You'll notice in a lot of the sketches he has a cane. I was really debating between a staff and a cane, but I think a staff indicates too much magic, and a cane indicates a little more the elderly look that I was going for. The only thing that didn't really change was his hair. I knew I wanted him to have long hair. So one of the other things that I played with was a leg brace. So in a couple of these sketches, you will see that there is a leg brace. I'm still not really sure if I like the leg brace. I do think if I want to revisit the leg brace, I'll need to go back when I'm not just when I'm not doing some kind of exploration sketch where it's like I'm just getting this quick idea down, this quick vibe down. So I think what I will need to do if I want the leg braces, I'll have to go back and kind of redesign it. My main concern with it having the leg brace is that, you know, I'm not sure how to, at least while I was doing these sketches, I wasn't sure how to make a medieval leg brace for a king. How could I stylize this leg brace to fit thematically, but also feel realistic? Because one of the things that I really hunt for in a lot of the designs that I make is some level of practicality. I am a big patron of practicality. I think that designs should at least have some level of practicality. Like when I look at costumes for, you know, characters in media that I like, I'm always analyzing their costume through the lens of, is this practical for this character? Do their pants make sense? Do their shoes make sense for what they're doing? Why is this character wearing high heels if they're in a combat situation? looking at you, Overwatch. God, I haven't played Overwatch in a very long time. Anyways, overall, the whole silhouette was really important to me. I really wanted to play with that idea of frailty. I almost want to equate it to Victor from Arcane, where, you know, he is a very frail looking character. Like, Victor looks very frail, especially near the end of season 1. He looks very frail, he looks very sickly. You can tell that Victor, despite his frailty, wants to do something. He's got a drive to do something. Even if he's frail, he has dignity. And that was kind of what I wanted to play with. I wanted that king to be frail. You know, it's the struggles of a dying king. He's dying, he can't take care of his kingdom anymore and all that sort of stuff. That was really what I was going for. That's why he has the cane, which the cane will also probably get more design work done in the future, because I do want to stylize the cane a lot more. With whatever prop a character has, I think it's important to make it purposeful. So instead of like, oh, you know, he just has, you know, this cane and the cane doesn't fit his character, I think it makes more sense, at least in my opinion, to make each aspect of his design purposeful, which is also part of the reason why I struggled with the leg brace, because I didn't know how to make it look purposeful. I'm also just not used to drawing leg braces. I don't have many characters who need leg braces, so I will definitely have to go back and do some research on that if I choose to keep the leg brace. Tying the music into the project was kind of, I think, the fun part. It's really easy for me to use music as a heavy inspiration. I absolutely adore listening to music while I'm drawing. So I had the music on while I was working, and I was actually imagining each song would correspond to a moment in the story. You know, the usual, like, it was finally a good song. The animatic in my mind will be legendary. I was using the music as a space to put the king in different situations and to think about, how does this tie into the story? Imagining the king in all of these different scenarios was also what guided my exploration, because I was imagining what was going on in this universe, whether it was a battle, whether it was him talking to his advisors or something similar, or him interacting with the other half of this project, which I'll get to in another video. It guided the theme of the story and also guided the theme of the design. So I haven't done any work on this project before. This is the first major exploration I've done with this project, aside from just some brainstorming. So this was kind of me defining a lot of what that project is going to look like, what this project is going to look like, and how it's going to mesh with the other project that I made. So that project will get a video when I start working on that one. But the music was crucial to figuring out the theming and what the universe was going to look like visually, and the tone of the universe, the tone of some of the characters. It gave me some ideas for some different characters, more than what I had just scribbled down. with that, it's time to get into the final segment of this video, which is lore. So this last little bit here is just me writing down some pieces of lore. As you will recall from earlier in this video, I mentioned that this character and this world that I am exploring with this sheet doesn't actually have any set lore yet. These exploration sketches were actually what got most of this lore put together. I write down the sun motif and some other little pieces of lore that I would never have come up with, or it would have taken me longer to come up with had I not done this exploration sheet and just been playing around with ideas and thinking like, oh, this would look good, this will look good, this, you know, let's look at this, let's try this. With all that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. It took me a while to put together just because I'm kind of learning a new software. I'm learning Vinci Resolve to try and start editing these with a little bit of a higher quality. I'm still working on figuring out how I want to do audio, because right now I'm just using the voice recorder on my phone and I don't have a microphone, so yay! But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this first part. If you liked it, you thought it was interesting, you want to hear more lore or more about my internal thought processes, feel free to leave a comment, let me know, talk about your own process. I'm curious, how do you guys explore certain characters? That'd be kind of cool to talk about. You know, if you like this kind of stuff, I'm hoping to start posting on this channel more. Gonna try and do roughly a video a month, just cause college is gonna start back up for me soon. How do you do an outro? Anyways, okay, thanks. Oh, bye-bye.